Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that doesn't get discussed enough in the wedding space: conflict. Whether it's between you and your partner or family and friends, a lot of tensions can arise as you're planning a wedding. With my degree in interpersonal communication and years of experience in the wedding industry, I'm going to be sharing with you some real life examples on wedding conflicts and how to navigate them. So grab a seat and let's get into it. Conflict is when two people or groups have some form of interdependence, but they have goals that can't be met at the same time. A wedding can be that connecting piece that brings two groups or people into disagreement because there's opinions or goals that can't align. So if you're wedding planning and suddenly in conflict with your partner, their family, or yours, you are not crazy, you're not a bridezilla. This is normal. The first strategy I have for you is get ahead of conflict as much as you possibly can. If there's something that you or your fiance might know can be a problem, for example, maybe your mom has been hinting about you wearing her wedding dress, or your fiance has a huge family with relatives he's never met, but you think his parents might want them to still be invited to the wedding. These are things that you should try to address ahead of time. A lot of conflict arises by expectations being built up and then not being fulfilled. So by approaching the subject ahead of time, you're gonna help to de-escalate those emotions and able to have those conversations before it gets too intense of a conflict. So what if you couldn't get ahead of it? That's totally okay. The next piece of advice is going to apply to those situations. So I'm going to use an example from someone who commented on one of my Instagram posts. So she says, "My neighbor's husband can't come to the wedding now because of his mother's health condition. She said, no worries, she will just bring her best friend to the sit-down reception. I've never met this lady. We don't know what to say to her. The wedding is in a few months and we don't even have the name of this person. The deadline passed at the printers and catering. They're just the nicest people though, and they've made an effort to come. But we don't know this person. Do you have any advice?" So here's an example where there's an expectation that came up and isn't going to be met. It's totally okay that you don't want to invite a stranger to your wedding, someone that you hadn't even anticipated to come. They were planning to have the wife and her husband there. They weren't actually giving the wife a +1. It's really good to sandwich your boundary in between recognizing their emotion and appreciating them. So for an example, in this situation, it would be good to start the conversation by telling your neighbor, "We're really sorry that your husband won't be able to attend." Now you add the boundary. "Unfortunately, we are not able to extend you a +1 in his absence." Now the gratitude. "Thank you both again for all your efforts to come. We hope you will still be able to attend." This now allows your wedding guest to feel that their emotions are validated, but you're still reiterating your boundary. You're not giving her a +1. Then you're also reiterating your appreciation for her making the effort to come. Even though she wants to bring someone, it's showing that she's thinking about attending your wedding and how much she wants to be there. So by validating those things, you allow your boundary to be reinforced, but in a way that might not feel as combative or as disappointing to your guest. All right, the second example for how to manage conflicts with your wedding comes from Reddit. So this example, she's saying that she found a wedding venue that she loved and only has one date left this year, Thursday, August 31st in Wyoming. But her second cousin's wedding is the weekend before, August 26th in Maine. While she's not invited to the wedding, her mom, grandma, aunts, and uncles are all going to her cousin's wedding. Her family's upset that they feel that the wedding is too close to hers and can't have it around the cousin's wedding. She says, "Personally, I feel that they are being unsupportive of what I want and need. I did not schedule my wedding on the same weekend. It's the only available date left. I have looked at other places, but they either don't have any dates left, are way too expensive, or aren't what I'm looking for." This situation brings me into my next piece of advice. Find common ground. Her family's really upset because they don't want this wedding to be so close to her cousins, having to pay for flights to one and then to the other. But here's the thing, this bride also is thinking about the cost, as she can't afford other wedding venues that are available, and this is one that was and fits with what she wants for her wedding day. By finding common ground, you can address conflicts but are able to empathize with the other person. So as a bride, you can express to your family members, this was really a difficult decision and this was unfortunately the only available date they had left. This is the venue that fits within my cost and I can't afford to get married at another venue on a different date. I also understand that you may not be able to swing the flight to my cousin's wedding and then to mine as well. So I understand if this is inconvenient for you and won't work for you to be able to attend. I would recommend, if you don't care too much about having these family members at your wedding, then go forward with your plan. This is about you figuring out what is your priority. If it means more to you to be able to get married at this time with your fiance at this wedding date, then do it. But if it's more important to you to have those family members there, then that's where you may have to come to a different agreement. By figuring out your priorities and finding common ground with your family, you can all decide what's going to be the most important to each of you. For some of those aunts and uncles, it may be your second cousin's wedding. And if you're okay with that, they have to be okay with that as well. You also have to think about the cost. If you can't afford another venue, you're not going to change that, just as they're not going to change their plans for what they can afford. So by finding common ground and figuring out your priorities, you'll be able to manage those conversations with your family members. And this leads me into my last piece of advice, which is let go. Once those conflicts happen and you've communicated your boundaries in a way that makes them feel seen and heard, you have to leave the response up to them. Some people may not have enough emotional intelligence to respond well to what you're saying. If people are disappointed or if they're still upset with you, this is where you have to let go. You've done your job by communicating things well, by respecting them, and by honoring your own boundaries. You don't want to build up resentment toward others by trying to change your plans for someone else. This is about your wedding, and this is a time of celebration and love. And so even though conflicts come up, you have to be willing to let go of the things that aren't as important to you in order to pursue those things that are the most important. This tip for your priorities can also tie into conflicts you may be having with your partner. It's great to have a chance for each of you to write out a list of the 3 most important things to you on the wedding day. And those can be the kind of things that when conflicts come up or you two disagree about a certain detail in the wedding day, you can then look back at those priority lists and see what was important to the other person. Always try to compromise on the things that were less important on your list and address the things that are more important on theirs. This is a great way for the two of you to build a day that works for both of you. Remember, conflicts are a really normal part of wedding planning and you are not alone. So I know I had to give real life examples and maybe your situation is different. Feel free to leave a comment so I can give you more specific advice about your situation and some tools for what to say to them. If this video was helpful for you, please like and subscribe so that we can have this video get pushed to more brides to help them in their own situations. And if you like this video, here's another one I think you might like.